Going live. Hello, welcome everybody. Yeah. All right. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome everyone. It's good to see you all. And welcome everybody live. I'm going to talk about the purpose of time, the true function, and how we should use time on today's section. And I think I'll start off by reading from the course, just one little paragraph about time. Okay. So it talks about how and our ego uses time. All right, Jada. Cool. Well, hopefully you get something out of this, and then because it's good to see you. So the course says that the ego has a strange notion of time, and it is with this notion that your questioning might well begin. So we're going to question how we have used time and how we give time away and how we don't purposely live into each moment of it. Okay, so the ego invests heavily in the past and in the end believes that the past is the only aspect of time that is meaningful. So think about how we are locked into in our world today. We are locked into time, but the ego says the only time that matters is the past. So we keep bringing the past into the present. Remember that it emphasizes on guilt. So guilt enables it to ensure it continuously making the future like the past and thus avoiding the present. By the notion of paying for the past in the future, the past becomes the determiner of the future, making them continuous without an intervening present. For the ego regards the present only as a brief transition to the future in which it brings the past to the future by interpreting the present in past terms. Whoa, that's a lot in one paragraph from the course. So we're really going to look at what the true function and the true purpose of time is. Okay, and in the course talks about how every moment and every day should be devoted to miracles. Now, miracles, we use miracles all over. So let's define miracles. This morning, what came to me is that miracles, okay, the purpose of miracles is to help us experience the way in which God sees the world. So the purpose and the essence of miracles is really to help us experience for whatever brief moments on how God sees the world. Now that's kind of an arrogant comment to be like, "Ooh, let's look at how God sees the world." But those experiences is really just full in the moment, pure love. There is no separation, there is no anxiety, there is no feeling of, you know, guilt, there is no fear, there's just clarity. There's clarity about everything. And a lot of times we start by doing gratitude practices. Gratitude helps us break the chain from past to present to the future, which is the only function of the present moment, is so that we can break a chain, a pattern. We can interrupt the thinking so that our future is not locked in and imprisoned by our past. So remember, the ego says the only purpose for time is really to live in the past, that there is no present, that the present is simply a bridge from past to future. But the present is the moment where we can make choices. Okay, so the real function of time. Time is an illusion. So we've all heard something like that before. Time is an illusion. You got all the time in the world, whatever, all that stuff, right? So time is an illusion, just like our stories, our interpretations, the material things that we see is really all an illusion. And how are they an illusion? Because at the end of the day, illusions are something that we can change our perspectives around. So one day we can see it as important, the next day we don't see it as important. One day we see it as right and what we desire, the next day it's not. So when it changes, if it's got the ability to change, that means it's simply a perspective, right? What that is, you have a perspective on it, it isn't the truth. Truth is defined as never changing, never altering, lives in eternity. So the only thing we can really say is true is love. Now, the course, we can also say, ooh, but love, there's all these different types of love. And that's what the course is teaching us, is that there is not that. That is not the case. You have made something special out of love, which is not love. It's your interpretation of love. God's love is all encompassing. That's why, we say the opposite of love is fear, or the opposite of fear is love. But there is no opposites because love is encompassing of everything. So miracles are those moments in which we experience true love and acceptance in places where we were once afraid, right? Where fear used to lie. Love can conquer it. And those that experience of love is the essence of what we're trying to learn. And that's what a miracle really is. Time is an illusion because we're trapped in it. There's a past, there's a future, and we don't live in either one. Now, the true function, the true purpose of time is really to teach us what is valuable, what is not valuable, and also the true final teaching of time is that time does not exist, that there is no use for time. So, like all illusions, illusions come to an end, okay? And our challenges, our teachings, and all of the stuff that triggers us, all of those things come to an end when it no longer facilitates facilitates learning. So when time ceases to teach you about all the other illusions in the world, it will cease to exist. This is why we live things over and over in our lives. When we don't learn from something, it comes back. It comes back and it's going to teach us again and again. But when we don't see it, when we don't see the true function and the true purpose of those things, then it keeps coming back because there's still a purpose for it. It's still a learning device for you. Our body is a learning device. Everything that we experience can be a learning device when we see it correctly. And that is the correct way to perceive all the things in our lives. Whether it's a relationship, an investment, it is all designed to teach you the true purpose of those things. See, the Course says that we really live in eternity. There's really nothing to stress about, nothing to worry about. And the purpose of time is to remind us that that is true. So what we do, because we have an insane mind, is we go and we find a bunch of things and we say, this is what's going to make me happy. And then we go and do it, only to find out it doesn't. It only brought me a whole bunch of stress. But in the future, I'll be happy because whatever, all the things that we justify imprisoning and sacrificing this moment for, it's because of something in the future. Now, that future doesn't exist. The only way it exists in our mind is by looking at the past. So this is how the ego does. The ego uses the present moment as simply a quick bridge to bring the past into the future. And we try to live our life like that. We run in this wheel of past to future, past to future. All your worries come from some event in the past. which is crazy. A future hasn't, we don't even give the future a chance because we imprison it with the past. So this time itself, this time lapse itself is to teach us how do we heal all of it. And it happens right now in the present moment. This is the only time that we can heal anything. Healing does not happen in the past. Healing does not happen in the future. It can only happen right now. So we use time like all learning devices. What else is a learning device? Our body is a learning device. See, our body represents either to the ego death because it is always dying. And this is why we live in fear. This is why everything is fearful for us. We don't trust people. We don't trust God. We don't trust our investments. We don't trust anything really. We look at all the things as, oh my God, it's going to come collapsing down because it will. See, if we live inside the form of all the illusions, everything's going to come collapsing down until we see things truly as they are. That what I think this thing serves does not actually serve that unless I use it as a teaching device. That's the proper way to view everything. Now, it's kind of weird to say, oh, my wife is a teaching device, but she presents learning situations. The reason why we're together isn't because I complete her or she completes me. We're dancing around the fire of a teaching, of truth. And we are mirrors for each other. And since we've chosen each other, we provide each other tons of lessons. There's always lessons to be found in this relationship. Now, if we see it that way, we can begin to access gratitude and see this teacher for what she is. But the moment we forget that that's the function of that relationship, it turns into a fight about it turns actually into the course actually goes right into it turns into death. Death is the killing of this moment, of this present moment, the forgetting of the present moment that your function is to heal and to bless and to extend love. That is our true function. And when we forget, everything is scary. Everyone's out to get us. And we look for conflicts. We look for something that is wrong, not something that is right. We armor ourselves up, we pick up the sword, we pick up the shield, and we start to attack the past. And in that, attack the present, the future. And the present disappears. The present disappears because we're no longer using time, we're no longer using our learning devices to learn. So when all things are seen as teaching devices, that means your mom, your sister, your coworkers that trigger you, situations, events on the news that trigger you, when we don't see them as learning devices and an opportunity to learn, what we do is we judge, we project. We take our own fears, we take our own insecurities, and we find a place to project it onto. And we think that's going to release us of the fear and the guilt that we feel inside. Right? This is why bullies bully, because they are projecting an insecurity inside, hoping that by bullying somebody else and elevating themselves to some status, that they would feel less insecure. But we all have experiences where that's not true. See, judgment and attack evokes and brings more attack. And more attack brings a sense of vulnerability. And I'm not talking about vulnerability like sharing authentically, but like the world is dangerous. I'm vulnerable. And in that, we become more defensive and we put up walls and we disconnect even more and more. And then that brings a bigger sense of insecurity, of fear, of, oh, what's everyone else thinking of me? Because what we think that other people are thinking of us is probably not something that's positive, because our crazy, insane mind always attacks if it's in a place of attack. They're like, ooh, they'll see me as this. And that's why the insecurities keep coming up. Other people don't even see us that way. We project it and we paint that picture out there for ourselves. So the purpose and the function of all learning devices is that it helps us recognize what is valuable and what is invaluable, what exists, what truly exists, and what we actually make up. There's that what's that movie? There's a movie back in the day by, what's his name? Bill Murray, Groundhog Day, right? And he's like trapped in time and like just got to do the day over and over and over again. And the only way out, he thinks, is death. But even death doesn't break him out of that cycle. It's the same thing for us. We just live in it every day. We find things to be stressful for. We find things that are conflicts. And so what is the answer to all of it? The answer is finding the present. What I'm speaking into now isn't something hard to learn. We all know that somewhere inside, something that is being said here is true. And it might be coming out of my mouth, but it isn't really coming out of my mouth. It's a message that wants to be shared. That's why it would even show up in my mind. And it's the same for everybody else. All of you, everyone that is watching, you will have your own pictures and downloads of messages and thinkings. You aren't really controlling where the thoughts come. One of two teachers is really showing that to you. You can only look towards a teacher, and that teacher will dictate the thoughts that you will have in your mind. And in turn, you will project it out into the world, and you will manifest a world that is aligned to the thinking in your mind. The Course's teaching of projection makes perception. And this is a constant reminder to that. The one teacher is spirit. What spirit teaches is infinite love, is understanding, is compassion, is kindness, is love. The other teacher is the ego. The ego tells you that we are all separate. That what works for you, if you win, somebody else will lose. Because if they win, and see, we might think, oh no, I don't think that. I think if I win, then others win too. But do you always think that? When somebody else wins, do you lose? And that might take a little bit of digging. Because the ego is also very righteous about ourselves. And we don't want to look at it. Now, what fills our mind, okay, what is real in our mind becomes real outside, right? When we want to buy a new car and we're like, oh, I want a red, I don't know, whatever, red something, red Raptor. Okay, this is actually a car that I want, black Raptor, F-150, the Raptor. I thought it was a very unique car. I saw it in a movie and I was like, man, I want that car. As soon as I wanted that car, I saw black Raptors everywhere. So did it not exist before? or just did not exist in my consciousness, so I couldn't see it. Now, what else is like that? Poverty, abundance, scarcity in the world, what the government's doing, what they're not doing, conspiracies, religions. What else do we have judgments about or acceptance about, which allows us to see things a certain way? What we make real in our mind first, what we decide we want to see, that's what we will see in the world. That means the amount of money in your bank account, where you are in your relationship, how your investments are doing, they are all neutral. But you see them a certain way, and you've designed and you've created that. See, if you have a loveless experience, it's because somewhere in your mind, a loveless thought, you've entertained a loveless thought. You've spoken the loveless thought into reality. And I think about, and this is why it's always a teaching device, my relationship with my wife. Once in a while, we'll have a argument over like nothing. But it's just because we're like, we got to find something to argue about. That happens to all of us. Because we get upset really at ourselves. We judge ourselves very harshly. And the way that the ego's teaching is that if you give it to somebody else, if you project it somewhere else, you will have less of it. They'll have more of it. See, this is the whole win-lose thing. It's not like I give you and then I'll have more. That's not what the ego thinks. The ego's like, man, if I have this, if I'm having fear thoughts, I just need to give it to somebody else. If I project and make somebody else more wrong or worse, then maybe I'll feel better about myself. I'll be less insecure. But insecurity is real in your mind. The more you do that, the more it grows, the more it becomes real. Last week or the week before, we talked about the monster, the little monster, and the unicorn. So the monster is the tiny mad idea that comes to our mind first. We entertain it. We're like, oh, what if she really meant, to attack me? What if we're not really meant to be together? What if, these crazy thoughts that come to our minds? Okay, what if this doesn't work out? What if people are out to get me? What if I can't trust this person? What if I'm going to get fired? Right? We have a lot of these insecurity thoughts that come, and then we make up stuff about it. If I get fired, this is what it means about me. We try to make meaning of all situations. If if a breakup happens, if all the stuff that hasn't happened, we predict it, we guess it, we try to, and it's usually things that we want to avoid, like things that are bad, and we think more about it, only making it bigger. This is how we grow the monster. We entertain the idea of this fear thought. What if I can't trust this person? Right? We entertain it, and from there, because we keep entertaining the thought, then we speak it. We speak it into existence. What if I can't pay my bills? Then what does it make about me? And we start blaming the world. See, we blame the world for the position and the situation we're in. Not because I've entertained an idea and I've spoken that idea into existence. And because we've spoken into existence, we have to defend this idea, because the ego is about defending this character, this identity you've designed for yourself. So we got to defend this idea. And as we defend the idea, we justify the idea. This little idea, we thought we were having them, it enslaves us and it becomes a big monster. And it seems like we're a victim to it. Then we just become a victim to it. There's nothing else I can do. That's just the way it is. And we blame everything else. As we blame everything else, and we will only draw from the past, by the way. We'll make up events to fit, to justify why I'm this way, why this is true. See, now we're so lost in the illusions. We're so confused. We don't even know what is real and what isn't real anymore. Now, I hope what I'm speaking into, some idea or some thought shows up in your mind about some chain that you get to break. The point of this call every week is to remind us that the present moment is the only moment there is. That this moment is the only moment you could heal anything and forgive anything. And people are they're one of our best teachers. People and time. Two amazing teachers. When they cease to provide teaching, then it won't exist anymore. So when we've truly healed something in this moment, it will no longer come to me anymore. There is a place in which we can heal truly from scarcity. It's going to take this moment, a lot of this moment to do. Break the chain, right, of a past. You don't heal the past in the past. You heal the past now, in this moment. And now, in this moment. And the course says it doesn't take a lot of time. There is no, oh man, because what we think is there's something big and it's going to take a lot of time for us to learn something or a lot of time to become more zen or more calm and more composed. We think it takes a lot of time. And this is why we procrastinate, because we think we got all the time in the world, but we know we don't. And so it's confusing for us. And when it's confusing, we just chuck it in the past. But that confusion we project out into the world. This is why a lot of course students are like, so then I don't do anything? What if, so I don't, what about things I have to do? What about the wrongs that I see? Okay. If you believe something is wrong, sweeping it under the rug actually only makes it more real for you. Because you've actively tried to hide it. When you actively try to hide something, that thing is not hidden. That thing's always on your mind. We must face it head on to change our perspective about it. Because if you put it and you sweep it under the rug and you put it somewhere else, it's always going to come back. The lessons will not escape you. See, what you are insecure about will just show up in another form. And they'll continue. It'll just keep coming because it's a teaching device. See, if we see everything as a teaching device, there is no need to be afraid of it. There's no need to sweep it under the rug or put it somewhere else. If we see everything as a teaching device, okay, what is there to learn right now? What is there to learn right now? Our mind starts to change. Our relationship to triggers, to people, to anything that we have to face in this world that we're locked into for the time being changes. Anybody want to share anything? I'll take a moment for a break right here. Open it up for any thoughts. Anybody live can also ask a question, whether you're on Instagram, LinkedIn, or whatever. Also, I'll take a moment to say if you want to be a part of our live calls, like on Zoom, while this is actually going on, you can register in that link and you will get a text reminder every Sunday and every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Eastern time. Okay, Marlene, go ahead.
Yes, good morning, everyone, and Alex. It's so kind of confusing to me about when to trust your thoughts and when not to do it. Because you said, for example, anything that we think about during this call, be sure that it's to be shared and trusted. But then on the other hand, I know I'm not to believe everything that I think of. Um, Not everything that I think of is true. And a lot of times I can catch myself almost, like sabotaging anything that I'm about to start due to fear or whatever it is. So I know there are spiritual practices that actually tell you observe, just observe, because whomever is thinking is really not you, the essence of you. You're beyond that. You're beyond your body, your thoughts, even your emotions. So, when do you trust and when do you just observe? I guess that's really my question.
So, when do you trust and when do you observe? That's the only thing that actually can be happening, right? Regardless if you choose it or not. Now, our thoughts. Do we trust our thoughts? Does it evoke clarity or does it evoke confusion? See, the only thing that we have to do and the only thing we can do is to determine in each moment which teacher we're learning from. Did this thought come from the ego or did this thought come from spirit? Is it creating anxiety or is it creating trust? Right? Does it make me feel more afraid? Now, both of them, when viewed correctly, learning device. See, even the Holy Spirit, even spirit itself is a learning device. Our goal is to remember who we are. Our goal at the end of the day is to remember that we're still in heaven. That all of this is a part of a dream. Now, the only way we really do that is we extend love. We practice love. Forgiveness, we said this last on Wednesday, I believe. Forgiveness is to bring only loving thoughts from the past into the present. That way we could free ourselves and we can free the future. There is only this moment, though. The thoughts that come to you did not come to you by accident. It's not to judge the thoughts that you're having. Oh, is this a good thought? Is this a bad thought? It's literally, how can I eat both of them, whatever it looks like, any of my thoughts, to learn, to remember. Right. So I don't know, maybe there's an example. Um, an example would be, like, I can't even think of something right now. What would be an example for you, Marlene?
Right now, just so you know, this household is kind of chaotic. So I don't know how you say that, but it's chaos here. So if you hear a lot of noise, I apologize. But I know for me, for sure, an example, it's and that's why I'm asking. It's tricky for me, Alex. Sometimes, of course, if I like the result, let's say, as you said, the feeling that it evokes my thoughts and all that. But then at that moment, I'm judging my thoughts, and I am determining what is good and what is bad. And that takes me back to I think you shared once that story, which is a beautiful one about what is a blessing and what is a curse. Um, and I think it's a Chinese teaching, let's say, that you cannot say, you do not know at the present moment, you do not know if this is really a blessing or not. So at that point, I'm judging my thoughts. So that's why it's just confusing to me sometimes. But that's what I tend to do. If this makes me feel good, then it's a good thought. If not, then I should avoid it. That's where I'm trapped, let's say.
Yeah. There is no way to avoid something, though. That's the thing. Like you might say, "Ooh, I like this feeling. I like this thought. Let me do more of this." But because you've made it special, it's no longer a learning device for you. You're like, "Ooh, I like it. So if I do more of it, maybe I'll have more joy." But what ends up happening is we do like, "Oh my God, I love this movie." You just keep watching this movie and it becomes less and less exciting. It becomes less and less uh uh you know, you love it less and less. But we also associate with, oh, if I watch it more, it means I love it more. If I do it more, it means I love it more. But our experience around it truly changes, though. So, what I mean by, and my point here is the more you entertain something, the bigger it becomes for you. But it doesn't mean that we add meaning to it, right? It becomes a part of our identity. So your thoughts that you think are bad and you're like, "Ooh, I shouldn't have these thoughts." By saying I shouldn't have these thoughts, see what the universe and what the teaching hears is thoughts. I, just this thought. It doesn't really know the difference between I want more of this or I want less of this. The moment you put any emphasis on it, it becomes bigger. It becomes more special. And we do everything like that. We do it in specialness. When we say we love something, we in our terms we actually mean that it's special. Specialness leads us down a path of uh specialness leads us down a path of expectations. Specialness leads us down a path of chaos and conflict, because we've made God of something that it is not. That's really what specialness is. We've decided that my relationship with money is love. We've decided that my relationship with my car, with my dog, with my material things is love. But these things end up leaving us. None of those things are permanent. So it really just sets us up for failure. Actually, it sets us up for the next learning opportunity. That's the way to see it. See, the healing is that it's a learning opportunity. Now, you've put yourself into this place. You've decided what's special, you've decided what's not. To the Holy Spirit, it doesn't matter when you wake up from it. It will keep showing up. The teachings will keep showing up. You make something special, it leads to pain, it leads to suffering. And it's like, here's a teaching moment about specialness. And we're like, okay. But if we don't see that as a learning device, what we do is we just go into another cycle. We make something else special. And we keep going round and round in this. The way to heal everything, the way to come back to truth about any confusion and any conflict is simply by giving it over to the Holy Spirit. Here you go. Take it. The more we try to wrap our minds around it, the more we get lost in the loop. We don't even know where we are in the loop. And we don't know how to get out. Yeah.
If I might add, what you just said, it's basically like having no expectations, right? Which I have heard before, and I get it. Um, oh yes, it's my assignment actually this week. But even before that, I've heard that not to have expectations. But I guess the conditioning it's so deep that I I make that the same as not having excitement, not enjoying anything, almost to the point that say like I really don't mind either way. It's okay with me. Then I will be so. It will be like apathy. How do you say the apathy?
Yeah. Apathy.
Apathy. Uh huh. It will sit in because then I don't look forward to anything or nothing. How, I don't even know how to make this question, but how can you not have expectation but it still be very excited and loving life while we go through it though? Because otherwise it's almost like every day is the same and it doesn't matter.
It's kind of like asking to have more worries and more stresses, and those will lead you to some sort of happiness. Like if worries and stresses were gone, I would have nothing. Right? Like what, those nothing's important to me then. If I care about nothing, what is that feeling? See, that's the fear. We're afraid to just be who we are, who we're designed to be. We have to keep all the things up and running. Every day I have to reinforce my identity. Cuz if I don't, then what's there if I lose it? What's there if I show up differently? What's there if I let go of these things that I'm judging? The material stuff that I've collected, the things that I've made special in my life. What happens if those things aren't there? What am I then? That's the fear. And what we want to talk about on these calls and what we want to remind ourselves is what's there beyond all that. What has always been there and will always be there, and you can't change it. It takes courage to look, because it takes courage to let go of the things that we've made special. It's like, man, if I let go of the things that are special to me, then what happens? What am I just sitting there and I have no care for anything? Okay, well, what is that like? Why don't we try to experience that first and then be the determiner of whether we want to have more stress and hold on to all these things that we have special, or to live in this carefree experience? Why don't we have that experience first? And there will be moments in our life when we have those moments of clarity where we're like, okay, well, this is not a big deal. See, that feeling of peace, that feeling of clarity is what we really want. To live life like that, to respond to life situations from that space, to always be that accepting, that trusting. And then also to know we can face any situation that shows up. That's what we really want. We want that confidence back of ourselves. But it's never gone anywhere. We've only dimmed the light. All right, Antoine, go ahead.
Thank you, by the way.
I just wanted to add some color to the question too, which is that the universe is always trying to bless us. Abundance is all around us, And if you're a being, what kind of being are you? Are you a spiritual person living on, living in this physical body, or is this body determining who you should be as a spiritual person? So I think when I hear you, I like say, hand it over to the Holy Spirit, right? That's almost you being an observant, saying, I'm a spiritual person first. I'm going to reconnect to that higher vibration instead of trying to solve the problem at this lower vibration. So there's a lot of quotes out there, like Einstein saying, if you're trying to solve a problem, you cannot be at the same vibration as the problem. You have to go higher to solve the problem. Or it's like somebody poking you, trying to make you angry. So if you respond in anger, you've tried to solve the problem at that level, right? By you saying, no, I'm not gonna allow this, person to poke at me, and I'm gonna respond at this level. I'm gonna be maybe the bigger person, right? That's you handing it over to the next level of vibration, right, to solve the problem. I don't know if that makes sense or not.
Yeah.
Wow, that's beautiful. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, totally. Um, that which we don't hand over, which is not given to the light or given to spirit, will be snatched by the ego or will be snatched by darkness. You have only two choices. Our free will isn't to determine the curriculum of the world or even our life. Free will is determining that each moment, do you live into love or do you live into fear? The only way for us to really live into the love and into the light is by giving over all the things that are dark, or giving over everything actually over to the light, so that we may be shown our own light. When we align our will, the Course says, our will, and to the will of the Father, we become clear about our purpose. And that sense of clarity of our purpose, it's a great feeling, and we live in and out of that all the time. There's moments where we remember very clearly, oh my God, this relationship, what it's really for. And we remember only loving thoughts. Forgiveness is happening. So forgiveness is the way to find the present moment. We got lots of things to forgive. And you can see different levels of forgiveness, but true forgiveness is really to see the lesson and the teaching for what it is. Like the forgiveness is not to see this person or this event as an attack on me, but to see it as a teacher. And once I've seen it as a teacher, it no longer haunts me anymore. Right? I had a friend tell me about a psychedelic experience that he had. Okay, and it changed his life. So he always hung around like people with tattoos, gangbangers, working out, and that's the crowd that he ran with. And he always created problems in his life. And it just that he kept that surrounding, but because that's what he felt like his circle had to be. And when he was having this experience, he saw all the other people that weren't like that as this like crazy like goblins or whatever, and it was scary. He was having scary moments, and then he had a thought. He's like, well, they're just doing their own thing, right? And they're not really out to get me. I don't have to be afraid of them. The second he had that thought, like the what if it could be something else thought, he said they turned into like supermodels. So that's the reason why I'm sharing that story is because our mind, like what thoughts we entertain, really dictates the surrounding and the environment we put ourselves in. And then from the environment that we put ourselves in, it creates a certain outcome and lifestyle that we live. right? Like we were wondering, like, oh, why am I always in the financial rat race, the circle, right? Just going up and down, and you know, why am I stuck in that my whole life? It's because we've chosen certain thoughts, and we've taken those thoughts, we've made them realities. We've surrounded ourselves with the same people that are aligned to that reality, and therefore keeps creating it and reinforcing it for me. So then what can we do? What can we interrupt ourselves with? What can we do that is different that we've done in the past so that we can have a chance into the future, into a different future? Now, the Course says none of those even really matters. Whatever you choose, okay? Having money, not having money, the teachings are going to be the same. Your circumstance just seems to be a little different. Okay, but there will be equal learning opportunities for everyone, regardless. And so this is, one of the conversations I had with my wife is she's like, most of the people that are doing this type of transformational work and stuff is in the lower bracket of the wealth column, right? The top 1%. They're not doing this type of work. I'm like, I don't know if they are. Right? It's just because we don't see it. She's like, if all the top 1% really was doing this type of work, then the world would be different. I'm like, I don't know if it would be. Right? So to the Course, we never know. We don't know the answer. We think we do. So, okay. Time is a very confusing topic. And when I'm saying confusing, I choose that word very carefully too. Time is a confusing topic because we want to break out of time, yet we live within time. We want to see what's beyond time, but we live inside the confines of time. So the only way, if I think about it and I keep running it around in my mind trying to understand time, it's not going to work because that's me trying to understand it. Rather than trying to seek your understanding of things, seek for the understanding to come through, to be downloaded. And there will be moments of clarity when you have given it over to spirit enough. So, other thoughts? And how perfect on a page we flip. Okay. Let's see if this doesn't bring some clarity to the message today. So we'll call upon Marianne Williamson to give us some guidance in this moment. So I'm going to read from her book, A Year of Miracles. Day 81. Only in my mind does the past exist. Isn't that just perfect, or what? Like that you flip open and this is what we find. Only in my mind does the past exist. Today I atone for the errors of my past and forgive others for theirs as well. Thus I am free of the consequences of wrong-minded thoughts and action. Today I dwell in the eternal present. In any moment, I am free to restart my life. I am not held back by the mistakes of my past as I atone for them in my heart. Freeing myself from the chains of the past, I free the future to be unlike it. May the love in my heart today interrupt the patterns of the past. I release the future as I release the past, knowing love will make all things right. Dwelling fully in the present, I release both past and future to a higher place. That's our goal. Our goal is to release to a higher place. Let something else be the judgment, be the judge. we try to judge this world from such a small recognition of things. We judge the world based on only our past. There's billions of pasts that's happening. And we judge the future, and we judge this present moment with one of those strands of infinite possibilities out there. We pick one, which is our own past, and we decide to judge the world with. And we want to be right about it. It's so crazy. We're so stubborn. It's insane. So today, I guess the tip of the day and the thought and the reflection of the day is to rather than being in a place of what do I want, what is the teaching, what does the lesson want, what does God want, what does Spirit want? We look through the world in those lenses instead. All right, Lenka, go ahead.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So, like, that is so fascinating. And as you said that about, our past and basically filtering everything through past memories and they're not even real. And, it just gave me a moment of peace for that moment. And I was thinking, when you look at some of the tribal groups that truly live in the rainforest and so forth, and they are just always at peace and they're always happy, and like death isn't even a sad thing to them. And you compare it to like us in quote unquote the civilized society. I've got all I have are my memories in my mind swirling around. Like, what else is there possibly to be other than like a revelation here or there, sitting on calls like this to kind of break through? And, I guess my question out loud is, if we're not always filtering through our past, since it seems to me our mind is always swirling in memories, they form our present day, what other way can we be in the present moment if it's not being filtered through hardwired memories? And it's just more of a general question.
Yeah. I mean, the question really is, what are those memories for? Because in the present moment, they're going to show up. Your memories are going to show up. Your past is going to show up. But what is it for? Right? The Course says that each day should be devoted to miracles, and the purpose of time, or the purpose of these illusions and the things of our past, is to enable us to learn how to use it constructively. It is a learning device. This is a teaching device. That's all it is. When we see things correctly with the right perspective, that something of my past is simply a teaching device. It does not don't make stories of all the other things. We make meaning of what it represents, what it says about this person, what it says about me, but it is just a teaching device to show you something. It's a means to an end. That lesson and that past will cease to need to come up when it no longer facilitates learning. It will keep coming up, and the reason why it keeps coming up, because it's like, here's your next lesson. Here's your next lesson. It just keeps going. It's like that Groundhog Day. There is no moving on to the next lesson until this lesson is done. It will just keep coming back. So what we can do in the present moment is to see it differently. Like, when it comes up, when these past moments come up, we don't need to judge it and make meaning of it. We give it over and ask Spirit to be like, hey, show me what this is. If it's something that's painful or traumatic, show me a different way to look at it. I remember our affirmation is, show me a different way to look at it, and I am willing to look at it differently. It's the only prayer that you need to deal with anything in the past is, God, show me a different way to look at something. Every time that you are anxious, every time you get into an argument, every time you have a loveless thought, ask, God, show me a different way to look at it. I want to see it differently. Show me where I don't have to see stress in this situation. Show me where I don't have to defend, where I have to attack somebody back. Show me a different way to look at it. I'm willing, because peace is what I want. Or as Marlene would say, that apathy moment. It's peace that I want. I don't want to have all the worries. I don't need it on my shoulders. The ego's like, nope, put it on your shoulders. Put it on your shoulders. And we're like, okay, fine, we'll do that. But just give it over. Antoine, go ahead.
You kind of touched it, but I was going to talk about, I think last Sunday I was like talking about, man, I wish I had a do-over for some kind of bad experience that I had, and so, if you are, I'm just going to say exactly what you said, maybe a different way. If we strive to want to be better and, have do-overs as we have the past haunt us, oh man, I really screwed up, in that situation or whatever. Or you really had a good time, and that's a memory that you recall for some reason. That means you're trying to maybe continuously apply that in your life, right? So if you're looking for these do-over moments, and remembering all these things, like you said, Alex, I think the purpose is, have you learned? It was a teaching moment. Have you learned how to either apply that in the present at all times? Is that what you're trying to say, Alex? Or have you learned that you had a bad behavior and you need to learn how to get rid of it forever? And until you learn how to do that, it's still going to haunt you. Is that kind of what we're talking about?
Well, yeah, we're talking about this loop, the cycle. Yeah, breaking that cycle. If you have a certain idea about it, it's going to keep haunting you. Now, I'm not going to decide if it's good or bad for me. See, once I see that event as a teaching device, I don't need to get rid of it or anything. I just need to learn from it. Right? I see it for what it is instead of what I make it up to be. It's not a bad or a good thing. It's just a teaching device. Okay, what am I supposed to learn here? Since we abide in this world and in this moment in time, we're simply asked by Spirit and by God to use every moment constructively. And since most of us clearly do not what to do, how to do that, and how to use these things as healing instruments, and we don't want to relive pain. We keep reliving painful and powerless past, and then we repeat it into the future. We need to ask for help to break the cycle. To break the cycle of this trauma. Just ask for help. Course says, here we go. What's in you already is the Holy Spirit that recognizes truth. When you ask for help, you're really asking for the truth to be shown to you about any given situation. You're asking for the healing of a past which is done in the present moment. Unless we use time constructively, we're really, we need to invite the Holy Spirit into each moment. Otherwise, we can't actually use it constructively. That's what the Course is saying. So yeah, I don't know if that kind of answers your question too, Lenka and Antoine.
No, thank you.
Yeah, it does. I get kind of in the loop of, okay, excuse my language, why the fuck haven't I learned my lesson yet? I'm a little hung up on that memory of what happened, in childhood. Why am I still figuring out the damn lesson?
Yeah.
So, yeah, but yeah, very, very helpful. I just got to figure out what am I not seeing?
Yeah, see,
how to put it in a different way.
Yeah, the focus is not, and it's so funny because we still try to figure it out. See, you're like, instead of offering it over to Spirit to help guide you in there, you're saying, why am I still going through this lesson? Why do I keep still having this come up? You're trying to make sense of it through the ego mind, which sees that as a painful event. So you can't undo that yourself. It needs to be given over to spirit. Because the truth of it is, the moment that you truly see that painful experience, not as an attack on you, but as a teacher, as a teaching moment, and you really shift that, then all that forgiveness is gone. You've already seen it in different light. You already see it as something that's serving you rather than something that has hurt you. The moment that we choose to see it differently, we can. But we need the Holy Spirit. We need Spirit to show us. And it's not even show us. It's shown as soon as we really ask for it. Because what we've really said is, I no longer want to see it as painful, as a trauma, as a reason why I've been the way I am. I'm willing to let all of that go. As soon as you do that, immediately the holy instant is the asking for something, and it's already given. The fact that you want to heal it creates the healing. And it's healed. Because you don't want to see it as that anymore. You don't want to be entrapped by it anymore. So here, I give it over. I give up. I give up being right about that. You know, and we all have these things in the past, all the past relationships, the past experiences that have hurt us. Let me give it up. Let me stop being right about it. Let me stop defending it. Let me give it over to the light. Let me give it over to spirit. I'm no longer going to carry it around me anymore because it's exhausting, it's tiring. I don't want it anymore. Anything that is not given to the light will be snatched by the darkness. Darkness needs constant defense. You got to constantly do things to keep things dark. So it just keeps defending. When you give it over to the light, light automatically turns darkness into light. Darkness requires constant blocking out of the light. Okay, because if darkness meets light, darkness just disappears. All the illusions of darkness disappears. If you're in a room and it's completely dark, you have to make up all the things that's in that dark space. You make it all up. Your mind will make up things in the dark. All the things that you're afraid of. But as soon as you turn the lights on, you're like, oh, none of that stuff is here. Light just automatically not destroys, but takes over the darkness. It doesn't need to fight it. It's not trying to make the darkness wrong. It just is. Okay, so who else wants to say something?
Alex, can you help a little bit here? So I get it, right? Light and dark, all these things. As you were talking earlier, for me personally, this week, I've been on the road for a while. I haven't seen my family, and a series of events happened. I might have tried to call them several times or whatever, and somehow a huge feeling of loneliness hit me. And I was like, wow, I haven't felt this one in a long time. I remember when I was single and I felt like this, but boy, man, this is going way back. And I didn't know how to process it, right? So I am reading the book The Secret right now. It's it's trying to tell me use your feelings are a gift to teach you or to remind you where you are right now and what you're dealing with. And it's a feedback or a feedback and what do you call it? A feedback mechanism in the loop to let you know, okay, you're feeling this way. Okay, so what are you gonna do about it? So do you hand it over to the Holy Spirit? Is this a good feeling or a bad feeling? And so forth and so forth. Anyways, I just wanted to speak up because you were saying, people have trauma, have hurt, all these things, but at the root of a lot of that is the feeling as well. And I don't think we talk about the feeling enough. When you're talking about light and dark and all, I'm like, great, but at the end of the day, it's how I'm feeling, and what kind of light do I need to handle this feeling? I was kind of struggling with that as I was listening to you.
Mm. Yeah, like feelings are also what we have to understand about feelings too is feelings they come and go, right? So in each moment, feelings come and go. They don't actually determine anything in time. It's just in this moment, this is what I'm feeling. The next moment, I can also feel it too. But feelings come from a thought. Feelings are learning and teaching devices too. See, we just have to see everything as a teaching device. What is it teaching me? What is this feeling teaching me about what I make real in my mind? If I'm having an experience, a feeling of loneliness and separation, that means somewhere in my mind, I am entertaining a loveless thought, a thought that is separate from others. That the only reason I could feel lonely is because I feel separated from others. That I'm going through something alone. That I'm doing something alone. But rarely do we go anywhere in the world that we're actually alone. We only feel alone because our minds disconnect from the other bodies that are around us. So learning and teaching device. That's what the feelings are for. Feelings are to tell us what am I showing us? What am I making real in my mind right now? Because if you truly have that relationship with yourself and have this giving over to spirit, you can't ever feel alone. There's always God always walks with you. See, that's what the Course says. The Course says from this moment on, when you choose that you are going to be a miracle worker, you're going to be a teacher of God, you never walk alone anymore. You'll recognize that spirit and God always walks with you everywhere. And then you start to see miracles everywhere. You laugh at things all by yourself, at little things that are like, see a little, I don't know, anything. And you laugh at the mysteries of life and how everything is so perfect. And I think that's part for me, like it's important once in a while to go into nature and do a lot of nature-y things. I love kayaking, like I really enjoy hiking, but the thought of going hiking, actually, I'm just like, oh man, that's a lot of work. But hiking, whenever I do go hike, I'm like, I'm like, look at these plants. How are they growing this way? Like everything is such a miracle the way it is designed in our world. In Peru, we used to like hike a lot in the mountains and we saw a lot of the jungle and things like that. I mean, the perfection of the world, of nature is crazy. I love watching things on animals in the ocean. I mean, it's so like I have a fear of sharks. Okay, I have a fear of sharks. And lately, usually on my feed, there's a lot of like shark related things, eating this and that and whatever. But now, lately, there's been this lady that I'm following that's teaching the behaviors of sharks, and she would do things to show like how they react and that they're not um just aggressive, right? And then there's also so many things that are showing up that's so crazy. Animals showing compassion is insane. Like we don't recognize it. We're like, wow, we have this level of consciousness to choose. Animals can actually show compassion as well. That means they must be choosing something in their mind as well. Right? I saw a video where this tiger shark was pushing a turtle to the boat. Like it was just pushing this turtle to the boat as fast as it can. And usually sharks will eat the turtles, but this tiger shark was just pushing this turtle to the boat. And then they were like, why is this shark pushing this turtle like to the boat? And they picked up the turtle, and the shark kind of left it once the boat stopped. And the turtle had this string tied around its neck, this like net or something. And it looked so tight, like the turtle was going to choke and die. And so they cut it open, and the turtle was all fine. But a shark pushing a turtle to the boat, that means it knows humans can help this thing. How crazy. And so many, and there's so many more. I've seen so many videos of, like killer whales or whatever whales or something coming to boats asking, like freaking out around boats. And they're really telling the humans to follow. And they do, and they follow, and then they find that, the mother whale or another whale, and it's like whatever was stuck in like a net or something. It's always stuck in a net. And then they go in and then they help it. Like these are interruptions because we think they don't have any like consciousness that operates behind it. And now we're seeing that fishes have that, or whales and sharks. Right? That means they must know. How crazy. And then you see all these unexpected friendships between, I don't know, like tigers and like a little dachshund dog. Like how they can develop friendships. In the wild, there's friendships. So crazy. So yeah, anyways, I don't know what is diverting into that, but those are some of the videos that I see all the time on my social media, and I love them. I'm like, animals got compassion. And then I see Lenka's videos of the freaking the possum. Right? Is it the possum that you guys were rescuing?
Possums, yeah.
Oh my god. It's so funny. And you guys released it back into the wild, and then it's just like it just hangs around.
Broke back into our cabin, one of the two. Yeah.
And then now you guys got a whole bunch of babies? Or
Two
something.
of them.
Two?
No, the rest all went to, we spread them out to rehabbers. But we're talking about these animal videos and their choices, and they are sentient, and it just, knowing so many people who are vegetarian, you bring up like maybe for another call the whole conversation of like what level of suffering at a level we can't see are we causing to ourselves by the suffering that we cause to animals. And it's always been my goal to become like a vegetarian. And I always ponder that, I want peace in the world. I love animals, and I will still prepare and eat meat. And, not so much the morals or ethics around it, so much as at an energetic level.
Yes.
What it's doing to all of us. That's a whole nother topic of conversation, but I'm so glad you brought this whole thing up.
Yeah. See, I don't eat meat, but I go back and forth on fish. It's so funny. I go back and forth on fish. And, I really think at the end of the day, it's just, there's no judgments on it, obviously. But for you, like, everything matters energetically. If that's how you feel and you have doubts about it, when you eat something that you have doubts about like that, it also it can affect the way you think too. Right? And it's not really that it's in your body, but it's the thoughts that you're having around it, and it affects the way you think. It affects the way that you're conflicted, right? Like if you're like, oh man, I love animals so much, but then I'm gonna just eat them. There's a sense of guilt that's inside also that you're also putting behind, like putting like under the rug. You're like, no, this is just how the way it is, and this is, we start to look for justifications of doing it. Right? If you do it without the need for justification, great, do it. But if you have to justify constantly why you're doing it, then there's something much deeper to look at, right? Because you've come to a certain level of consciousness, which is speaking to you, right? Some people don't have that speaking to them. And so that's perfectly fine. But if it's speaking to you and you choose not to act on it, it will lead to other conflicts. See, that's one form of a conflict. And because that's a conflict for you, everything else will be a conflict. Oftentimes, when we really choose what's true for us, everything else starts to make sense. Clarity reigns over everything. If you're having struggles about this and about that, and then also in the way you eat, those are all different forms of the same exact teaching. Right. So, yeah, I mean, they're all things just to think about. Nothing is right or nothing's really wrong. At the end of the day, nothing's actually happening, is what the Course is saying. Nothing's actually happening, right? Just because a body dies and you eat a body doesn't really matter. Nothing's really happening. Okay, so, because the body isn't the end. You didn't end a life. Life can't be ended. So nothing's really happening, but if you have conflicting thoughts and you're still doing something that you don't believe anymore or is in contradiction to something that is love for you, then you're actively kind of suppressing the experience of love for yourself. So that's my thoughts on that. Go ahead, Jess.
Yeah, real quickly, I could not pass up the opportunity as soon as we're talking about animals, because I do have the best animal on the planet. My Bella, when I got Bella, I was taking care of my uncle who had advanced Alzheimer's, and I just could not keep him still. I could not do anything to control him. And I adopted Bella and wanted for her to be an emotional support animal. Thinking that she was a Chihuahua, she turned out to be a Jack Russell, which made me even more nervous because I'm like, how is this animal ever going to be an emotional support? And the moment I brought her in and I sat her on his lap, it's almost like she knew what her job was. She knew what she was there for. He sat in his wheelchair for about 2.5 hours, just stroking her and everything. When I couldn't get him to stay in his wheelchair for 5 minutes without him getting up. Besides being a wonderful emotional support animal, the night that he passed away here at home, she was with him to the very last second. When they finally came and took him away, she stayed underneath his bed for the rest of the night. And she transitioned. And at that point, I spent 2 days in bed, like I could not, crying and just going through what. And she then transitioned into my room and spent 2 days where I swear, if I took her out once in the morning and once at night. The rest of the time it was in bed, it was just sleeping, crying. She just took care of me. It's almost like that was her job. She knew what she was here for. She took care of me, and now I made her actually a service animal, so she goes everywhere with me. But she knows when I'm depressed. She knows when she just knows. I actually trained her. You know where I live, Alex, up on the 3rd floor. I actually trained her to go all the way to at night. She takes herself downstairs to pee and goes right back up the stairs. I mean, and she understands everything. So animals, for sure, they feel, they sense, and they communicate. And I'm just so blessed to have them with me.
Yeah, totally. I'm a huge, and it's so like animals stories and animal things have just crazy miracles. Like there's so many miracle stories that we're like, wow. Right, when I chose to stop eating meat, I was horseback riding actually, and I really connected to this horse, and I looked into the horse's eye, and we just made contact for a while. It was just like time froze. I was looking into the eye of this horse, and it was looking right back at me, and I saw everything. I saw other animals. I saw whales. I saw things I was afraid of, lions, and then I saw my dog. Right, my dog was like sick at the time too, and I was like, oh my God, all right, I hear you, and from that moment on, that was like maybe like 16 years ago, 17 years ago, and I was just like, I'm not eating meat anymore. I was like, nope, not doing it. Now, 2 days ago, we went out to dinner, and I ate meat by accident. It was like in the salad thing. I'm like, what is this thing? I was like, this tastes so good. I was like, I don't know what I just ate. And Love was like, yeah, it's meat. I'm like, oh my God. But also, I don't have judgment for myself when that happens, right? It's like, it's the kindness that you show. When you have kindness that you're showing outwards, you will show it inwards as well. And we just keep practicing that, right? How can you be more compassionate? How can you be more kind in your thoughts today? I think that's all we really have to do. The purpose of time is to show us how we can do that. The purpose of time is to show us how we break time. And so this is why time is really the most valuable commodity for us. Not that we don't have an infinite amount of it, which in the construct of this world, yes, we don't have infinite amount of it, but time shows us everything. It shows us the truth of who we are and what we're capable of. Okay, go ahead, Lyra.
Hey, Alex, I just wanted to thank you for this call today. There's a lot of things that I was going through. Last night, there's some revelations, or it helped me clear, or get some clarity. For some reason, last night, I thought something came up, and for some reason, it just bothered me so much. And then I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, I thought I was done with this. why is it still, why did it come up? What was it about it, right? And throughout this call, you mentioned something about specialness. You create specialness, you hang on to that, and that's what you look for. And if it's no longer there, then it creates, you can get upset, or, it just creates problems to you. And throughout the call, I just realized, and I just felt this energy that it just cleared up to me. There was some specialness that I was hanging on to, and it's giving me fear and worry, right? That I now realize, oh, that's why it would bother me, or it was triggering something that I thought I was done with. Actually, I wasn't done yet. So thank you for this call. Without being so specific, but it helped me so much. Thank you.
Oh, that's good. That's awesome. That's the point of these calls. And we'll all have our, Jay sharing how she has a reason why she tuned in here. We all have different things in our life, and hopefully these calls just bring a little bit of clarity on what to do next, right? What to do next for yourself, what you can bring, and when we bring ourselves truly to something that is meaningful to our work, then things become more clear too. The words behind the words. Yeah. I'm just speaking words, but hopefully some of these words land a certain way because the intentions behind it is a prayer for us to remember. And really, when you talk about specialness, whenever we are upset, whenever we have worries, what did I make special? What did I make special? Which means I've made it God and it isn't God. What did I make God of? What did I make God of? Money? Did I make God of this relationship? Right? And when I say make God of, it means this thing is my salvation. Rather than the way that God sees it. Remember, miracles, see, our day should be devoted to miracles. Miracles is really the experience of the way God perceives the world. Now, what that means will be up to you to find in the situations in your life. Right? Find the things when you're upset. What did I make special? What did I make special that I am not loving? That I'm not giving love to. I'm giving special. I've assigned specialness to it rather than love. Love with a capital L is an extension from God and its only experience. We cannot make sense of it. Okay, it's experience. What am I not why am I not experiencing love? And how have I made this thing special? Special means that is my salvation. The reason I'm upset is because of this thing. The reason I'm happy is because of this thing. That's what we've made. That's when we make it special. All right, so that's our final words of the day. Really, is that's a great way to end it. Thank you, Lyra. And so yeah, and this open it up back to Marianne Williamson. This will sum up very clearly for us what a teaching situation, a teaching moment really is. Okay, what is time? What is the relationships we've ever had? What is the investments we're doing? What is the vision that we have? What is the business we're creating? All of it. What's the body? What is time? Right? So it is the teaching device and a learning device. And what are they all? And of course, Marianne answers. Day 301, every situation is planned as a chance for me to grow. So to sum up today's call, today I will recognize everything that happens as an opportunity to grow, a chance to embody who I am capable of being. If I am tempted to weakness, I will choose to be strong. If I am tempted to anger, I will choose to forgive. And if I am tempted by fear, I will choose to love. I know the universe is set up to support me in becoming my fullest actualized self. Whether the lesson is easy or the lesson is challenging, I will see each moment as my chance to grow. This way, I will learn what love is, and I will learn who I am. Dear God, no matter who I meet today, and no matter what occurs, help me to remember love. Guide my mind and open my heart. May I see your love in everything, that I might know the truth. Amen. All right. That's it. That's all, folks. See you all on Wednesday. All right. Have a blessed Sunday. Bye, everybody.
Blessings.
Bye.